we go. That's right. You have to tilt it like you're a lounge act. I'm not going to croon, Mr. President, but what I'm going to say is I share some of the concerns that were just said previously, and that is, but for a different reason. The Senate took a look at this. The Senate this year grasped the magnitude of the drop in oil prices and our revenue drop. We started early, and I mean right after the elections, having conversations, because at that point we were heading into the 40s per barrel for oil. We didn't know where it was going to end. We didn't know if it was going to be $20 before we got into session. Long story short, we have a $4 billion plus drop in revenue. When you have a $4 billion drop in revenue, all bets are off. The game has changed significantly and radically. Looking into next year, there's no improvement in this outlook of $4 billion. The sucking sound you hear is the sucking sound of our savings going. And some of us are running as fast as we can to ensure that we reduce the size of government before that sucking sound ends and we have no more savings to cover the gap. We're going to hopefully vote on this and get out of here today. But this is not the end of this story or even this chapter. We're going to start immediately, probably some of us in just a few days, and looking at next year. So the point I'm trying to make is, while many of us here in the Senate, and by the way, we did get our job done in April. We did vote 15-5 for a budget, 15-5 to access it. The issue was in the other body. We waited patiently for that to resolve itself in conversations with us. But the long story short is, we were initially looking at cuts of $900 million in the Senate. Then we went to conference and went to 809. Now we're somewhere in the 770s, and for some of us, 750 was a cutoff. We would have started to have problems here in the Senate with getting people to support the budget as it kept growing and growing and growing. But all I like to say, and I'm going to wrap up, is next year, which is next week we start probably, we're looking at a $4 billion deficit. And if people thought it was difficult this year, it's not going to be any easier next year. And some sacred cows that escaped a haircut this year, some of those sacred cows may actually be butchered coming into the next year. So with that, I think we need to, pull up our straps, put on our pants, and get ready for a difficult, difficult year that we're heading into. I think we'll get through it, but it's not going to be pretty, and we got a good start on it this year. So with that, Mr. President, I'll yield.